Coming up on this week's edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
We'll show you how U.S. beef promotions are working to win sales at grocery stores in Japan. Plus, see how a forage harvester from New Holland can improve your operation's bottom line.
And now, NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Hello and welcome to NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Kevin Ochsner. For years, Japan has been the #1 export market for U.S. beef, accounting for 1/4 of our exports. This is thanks in part to the work of NCBA, the Beef Checkoff, and the U.S. Meat Export Federation. Recently, a group of American producers got a chance to tour Japan and see firsthand some of the programs that are promoting beef in Japan. Cattlemen to Cattlemen reporter Brian Baxter tells us that these efforts are helping to build enthusiasm for U.S. beef.
For the 31 producers who participated in the U.S. Meat Export Federation's Heartland team, the week-long trip gave them a unique opportunity to see how U.S. beef is promoted in Japan and to watch the buying behavior of Japanese consumers in several different grocery stores in the Tokyo area.
We went through a retailer yesterday, actively promoting U.S. beef, and it was great to see that, and it was great to see the promotions. USMEF does ongoing promotions in store where they're doing samplings and stuff like that. I'm told that they go very well, and we saw some of that yesterday. It's great to see our product being moved. It's great to see people, Japanese consumer, purchasing our product.
My first impression would be that U.S. beef looks great at the Japanese retailer. When you're looking at it there at the beef counter, the product looks good compared to its competitors. It really stands out. Hopefully the price stands out to the Japanese consumer, and it's great to see the recognition that our product has at that consumer level.
In Japan's retail stores, U.S. beef often carries the Beef Checkoff logo right on the package, reflecting the fact that U.S. beef producers and their checkoff dollars help to fund USMEF's work in promoting their product.
I think when we actually went to those supermarkets and see what a presence that U.S. beef does have in the actual grocery stores, and it's a pretty amazing deal to see American beef being represented so well there.
Yes, it just seems like people, consumers as well as the retailers and the importers themselves, they equate that logo with quality because they can't get grain-fed beef just like we have in the United States from our competitors.
USMEF works closely with Japan's major retailers to promote U.S. beef in this key market, and those partnerships often include in-store sampling so Japanese consumers can get a taste of the product American cattlemen and women produce.
We were actually in the grocery store and they had samples of some beef there. I think it was ribeye, and people walking by tasting the ribeye and then actually going back to the meat counter and going and choosing U.S. beef and purchasing it actually. I mean, so that was driving their buying decisions right there in front of us. I think from USMEF standpoint and contributing to that, to get that in front of the consumer, it really makes their buying decisions change in a hurry.
A lot of times, just putting a sample in somebody's mouth, it might only be a 1 ounce sample or something small, but the taste usually seals the deal. So, this is what we're trying to do, and the feedback from the retailers especially is that the performance with tasting demos and promotions not only has that initial impact with a large increase in sales, but we also measure the lasting impact, after the demos are over. So it's pretty well documented that there's immediate and long-lasting payback with these promotions.
With the USMEF Heartland team in Tokyo, I'm Brian Baxter for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
And joining me now is Minnesota cattleman Don Schiefelbein, who also serves as NCBA's Policy Division Chairman. Don, we've been talking about Japan and the important role that market has for the U.S. beef industry. What can you tell us about the recent bilateral agreement between the United States and Japan and what it might mean for the U.S. cattle industry?
Well, it's huge. It's a huge victory for cattlemen across the country. Basically, what it does is it levels the playing field in that international market. So today we are basically competing against producers in other countries that are selling their product for 12% less than we are. You know, so, and we're still doing well. So as we narrow the tariff and make it comparable with theirs, it looks like the opportunity is going to be huge for American cattle producers.
And the agreement with Japan is not the only issue that NCBA is monitoring in terms of trade. What else is NCBA taking a look at?
Well, obviously, USMCA has been one we're trying to get pushed over that finish line for some time. And it's amazing the posturing among the politics on everybody's afraid to give the win to somebody, right? But the key winner in that is the U.S. cattlemen. So we need to get it pushed across the finish line, and we need to get USMCA passed.
It looks like we finally eliminated the waters of the United States rule. Is it gone for good, do you think?
Well, hold your breath. For now it is, right? I mean, you know, the other side's not happy, but it's a huge, huge victory for us. The analogy I like to hear is, as you know, Kevin Kester, former president of NCBA,
Sure.
Previous to the rule, the way they wanted it, every single water on his ranch would have been regulated. Every single water. Wow. Under the rule being lifted, 0 waters are regulated. So that just tells you the impact of making sure that rule got put in its place.
So what are the other issues that the D.C. office is working on behalf of cattlemen and women?
Well, I couldn't be a Minnesota cattleman if I didn't talk about the delisting of the wolf, Kevin.
Yeah.
You know, even in our home operation where we ranch up there on the Canadian border, we've lost 3 animals this year to wolf predation. Wow. So it's important that we get that to delisted, get that done, and make sure we put that in its place, right? Yeah. So that's an important one. The other one we're working on is transportation. We want to make sure that hours of transportation is done so that we can get cattle from the southeastern United States to the feedlots in the central part of the United States, or from California to the central parts, and allow the means for truckers to get them there.
So how can cattlemen and women who may be watching this show assist in supporting these policies and these efforts?
Well, a couple of ways. You know, first of all, they can become members of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, right? You know, we need all the funds we can to combat all these important issues in Washington, D.C. And as you all know, for some of these issues that we're debating, we can't use checkoff dollars. We need those dues-based dollars. Right. The other thing we want them is to fully engage. You know, when we talk to congressmen, guess what they want to know? How is it impacting their district? And have they heard anything from their members at home? Right. So if the members at home speak, the odds of us winning are pretty good. So we need the members at home to tell their congressmen, tell their senators, these issues are important, they impact their bottom line, and it's important they're on our side on those issues.
That's great, great words of wisdom. The convention is coming up shortly in San Antonio, 2020 convention here in February. I know you have been there many, many times. What's your message to viewers about the importance and the value actually of attending the convention?
Well, first, there's no better place to be than in San Antonio in February.
A little better in Minnesota.
It is. and so I always look forward to coming there. The weather's usually beautiful and it's a nice event. But it's where all the business gets done for organization. Yeah. For those who want to affect policy, here's your opportunity. Yeah. Make the plane ticket. Bring the family along with you. Heck, take a walk down the river walk, right? Enjoy your time. But help set policy for this organization to make sure it's working the way you need it to work for your long-term investment.
That's a great, great comment. We'll look forward to seeing you down there, Don, and thank you for all your work. Your plate's full with all these issues, for sure.
And I'm glad to serve.
Thank you. Now, if you'd like to stay up to date on all the key issues and events from D.C., one way is by becoming a member of NCBA. Members get the Beltway Beef Newsletter. It's a weekly update straight from Washington that gives valuable insights on the key policy initiatives that may impact your business. To join, just call 866-233-3872, or you can visit the website ncba.org. Still ahead on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll check in with the experts from CattleFax on what to expect from the cattle markets this fall. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
What does it mean to be an American cattleman? It means you have what it takes where it counts, on the inside. At Ritchie, we understand that. It's what's on the inside that defines us. We share the same values: ingenuity, commitment, sense of pride. These are the values that built this country. They're the values that built this company. Ritchie, proud to be a partner to the American cattlemen since 1921.
Welcome back. The end of 2019 is quickly approaching. So what can we expect from the cattle markets for the rest of the year? Joining us now to talk about the fall outlook is Kevin Good with CattleFax. Kevin, have you and your team been surprised by anything in the cattle markets this last year?
Well, so looking to this year in particular, supplies have been right on spot, just a little bit bigger from a cycle standpoint. Demand has held up exceptionally well. Of course, the wild card has been the plant fire in Holland, Kansas, and because of that, the last couple of months have been rather rough for all cattlemen. Depressed prices, lack of profitability. Now, as we go forward, hopefully that problem will be rectified and we can see these markets improve.
You bet. You mentioned consumer demand. I'm curious to get your take on consumer demand, both here at home as well as the international demand.
As we think about the demand, there are two prongs there. The domestic side has been exceptional this year. As we think about it, more people are working and wages are going up faster than the rate of inflation, so there's more dollars to be spent. Beef continues to be the preferred protein, and so we've actually seen more pounds go through retail at higher prices. That's the formula for true improvements in demand. Now, when we look at the export market, it has been a little bit disappointing. Of course, we've had the tariffs and some of the trade wars that have held us back. As we think of it in particular, exports this year, when it's all said and done, are going to be down a couple percent compared to last year after 3 years of double-digit gains. Okay. So we're a little bit disappointed there, but we're pretty optimistic as we go into 2020 for trade, especially with the new deal signed with Japan.
Yeah, that was good news and should be encouraging to all of us in the cattle business. One group that we've heard a lot of lately is cattle feeders. They've had some tough times, and I'd be curious to know, what are your projections as we finish out 2019, particularly for cattle feeders?
As we think about the fed cattle market in particular, we do think we put a very long-term low in the market here about 45 days ago after the plant fire there in Holland, Kansas. And so at that point in time, prices were sub $1. Here recently we've seen the market improve. As we go through the remainder of the year and also into the first quarter of 2020, we do think the market will be rather seasonal and improve as we go forward on into the springtime of next year.
And let's talk cow-calf producers. For those folks that may be weaning right now and looking to sell calves between now and the end of the year, what would you tell them?
It's an unfortunate event as we think about the lower prices the last couple months. We knew that this year was going to be tougher because of increased supplies. We have expanded for 6 straight years. But nonetheless, this has added a little bit more downside pressure. If we look at a 5.5 weight steer calf U.S. average, they're trading about 150, 155 as we talk about October here. As we go through the remainder of the year, we've got to get through the fall run, and so price is probably going to be pretty flat in that range over the next 30 to 60 days.
Yeah. If they have feed, do you think they're better off keeping them on into early part of next year?
As we think about where we're at within the cattle cycle, and that's an excellent question because the spread between feeder cattle and calves is rather narrow. And so it does make sense logically to go ahead and retain ownership on a percentage of your calf crop, at least as you go into 2020. I think this is a time frame from a cycle standpoint. Those prices are compressed. It does make very good sense.
Let's talk grain markets. Many people are hitting the fields. It's been an interesting year with lots of different forecasts in terms of how much corn is actually out there. What's your take?
You're spot on. It has been interesting. And as we go into the harvest over the next 30, 45 days and get through the harvest by the end of the year, really the yield is a driver in here. Everybody knows we've got a few less acres that are probably going to get harvested. At the same time, the yields, as they've coming from the south, working to the north, we also have the threats of an early frost and freeze, as we think about here as we go through the remainder of October and on into November. So the bottom line is, in our opinion, you're probably in a trading range. As you think about spot corn over the last 4 years, with the exception of a blow off top a couple times, you've been kind of $3.30 at the bottom, $4 at the top. You probably spend a lot of time as you go through the remainder of 19 on into 2020. Let's say $3.50 to $4 as far as the spot corn is concerned.
So get your crystal ball out and tell me, is it too early to begin thinking about 2020? What do you see in the 2020 market?
There's positives and there's negatives as you think about the next 12 months. In particular, or if you think about where we're at from a cycle standpoint, we have expanded for 6 straight years. Pork and poultry have expanded as well. They've added capacity in their packing plants, and because of that, we will have bigger supplies.
Okay.
Now, on the other side of the coin, we are very optimistic that trade will pick up in 2020. On the beef side, part of that's negotiated trade with Japan. That should be very positive. Also, as we think about African swine fever, that is going to open up more doors for export of all proteins as we go forward over the next couple of years. So that will offset some of the production increase. Probably not all, though. And because of that, where we're at within the cycle, we would have to suggest that prices will probably be similar, if not maybe a tick lower as we think about it, just because of secular bigger supplies.
Gotcha. Kevin, we always appreciate you all's insight. Thanks for coming today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, for more than 5 decades, CattleFax has been providing producers with the tools they need to make profitable decisions. If you're looking for top-notch beef industry research, information, and analysis, then visit the website CattleFax.com. Still to come on Cattlemen, we'll talk about some of the ways NCBA works to grow consumer demand for beef. That story and more when we return.
If you're looking for the right tractor for your operation, the right red tractor tool from CaseIH.com can help. In just 5 easy steps, the right red tractor tool will help you find the right Farmall, Maxim, or Puma tractor for your needs. The first thing you'll be asked is the type of work you want to do with your new tractor. This helps the right red tool match you with low-maintenance, high-productivity tractors that fit your operation. Next, you'll be asked how much power you need. The right red tool can provide suggestions for tractors ranging from 28 to 210 PTO horsepower. Then you'll be asked if you prefer to work in a climate-controlled cab or a roomy non-cab tractor, both equipped with comfortable seating and intuitive ergonomic controls. After that, the right red tractor tool will ask you how much you'll spend on average in the tractor you're looking for. And finally, the right red tractor will ask you the type of loader options you want. Once you've completed the 5-step process, the right red tool will provide you with tractor recommendations tailored to your needs. Try it today. Stop by your local Case IH dealer to find your right red tractor or schedule a test drive at caseih.com/minute.
Welcome back. Every day, NCBA, through Beef Checkoff funded programs, works to maintain and grow consumer demand for beef. Here to talk more about these efforts is Elisa Harrison. She's Senior Vice President of Global Marketing and Research for NCBA. So tell us, how do you even attempt to stay abreast of the changing consumer preferences and demands?
Yeah. We are out there looking every day about what consumers are thinking, what they're demanding through a pretty intensive consumer research program. We've got a monthly tracker, that's kind of research terms, where we are talking to thousands of consumers every month about all kinds of issues related to beef production and beef. We do focus groups, we talk to consumers, and then also through our state beef councils, we're also talking to those consumers locally about how they're feeling about beef, what they think about beef, and what they like most about beef.
And so tell us, how do you share that information or those insights with consumers?
Yeah. Well, we take that information and we develop programs that we think will resonate with consumers. So we have found through our research that consumers still have some questions about how their food is produced. Not just beef, but all food. Right. And so we delve down to find out what their questions are, and then we develop programs to answer those questions, and then we deliver those in a way that will be meaningful to them, that we present it to them in a way that they want to receive it on the platforms they want to receive it, and have a two-way dialogue with consumers today, because that really is the name of the game. You can't just be pushing information out. You have to be asking their questions and then responding back.
It really is engaging with them, not just communicating to them.
Exactly,
right?
Exactly.
And speaking of that, you can't pick up any magazine without talking about the important role of millennials. I'm curious, what have you specifically done to educate, engage with millennials?
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Well, our target audience is that older millennial parent, because that's really, millennials are the biggest sector of our demographic today. And as they start to get older and they start to have kids, what they're feeding their families is becoming more important to them. They're also very social. They're on digital media. They are not even watching television anymore. They are getting it all through connected TV, connected platforms. So we are providing the information where they are, whether it's YouTube, Hulu, Pinterest, Facebook, all of the digital platforms. But we're also using some technology that they're using in gaming and some of the other things that they're doing, like artificial intelligence. Wow. So last year we launched Chuck Nose Beef, which is using artificial intelligence as a digital assistant. So they can ask Chuck a question, they can type Chuck a question, they can text him, because the biggest questions that consumers have today is, how do you produce beef? How do you actually make it? Because they're not as familiar with the cuts, they're not as familiar with cooking techniques. So any way that we can get that information to them in the way they want it is starting to pay off for us when it comes to beef demand.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's funny you talk about television, because I remember watching the original Beef It's What's for Dinner commercial.
Yes.
And speaking of which, you just relaunched the Beef It's What's for Dinner campaign a couple of years ago. Can you update us on how that's going?
Sure. We relaunched it and made it more relevant to today's consumers, that older millennial parent. Try to make it more relevant to them, focusing on the attributes that distinguish beef from other protein sources like chicken and pork and some of the newer products that we're seeing in the marketplace today. And there are three things that distinguish beef. One, the taste of beef, number one. It really is, no one can beat that. Two, the nutritional value that you get from beef. It's a protein-packed punch, that we like to say. But more importantly, people love cattle producers, and so the people who are producing the product really resonates with those consumers today. So we take all three of those as part of what we call pillars to the Beef It's What's for Dinner brand, and we're just seeing nothing but success. We do know that when people are aware and familiar with the brand, the Beef It's What's for Dinner brand, they tend to say that beef is their number one protein. Wow. And so we have seen a continual increase in the awareness of Beef It's What's for Dinner, and therefore we've seen a continual increase of those consumers who choose beef as their number one protein. That's not the only protein, but it's still their favorite, and that's what we're able to track through our ongoing consumer research that we do every month.
That's great news. Yeah. And you mentioned producers, and I guess my question to you, for those people watching the show, what guidance would you have about how producers should engage in telling the beef story?
Yeah. Well, first of all, producers should engage, because as I said, producers are the best spokespeople that we have. Consumers are very fond of farmers and ranchers. They trust farmers and ranchers. They have a lot of questions for farmers and ranchers, and they see them as credible sources. At NCBA, we're the largest contractor to the beef checkoff. We have a program called Masters of Beef Advocacy that's online, or you can have some in-person opportunities at the state level to learn how to talk to consumers about all of these issues. But more importantly, we encourage producers to engage with that consumer like we talked about. Get on Facebook, get on Pinterest, get on Twitter, and have that conversation, because consumers like to have that one-on-one, not only with producers, but anyone on things that they're buying. So join Masters of Beef Advocacy, and then get online if you're not online, and if you are online, get out there and start helping us educate consumers about how beef is responsibly raised today, about how beef is superior in taste, and how beef really meets that nutritional profile for a healthy diet.
That's great advice. Thank you so much for coming to the show.
Well, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Now, don't forget, you can check out the Beef It's What's for Dinner website for a great interactive experience. You'll find things like recipes, information on beef cuts, and nutritional information at this one-stop shop for all things beef. Still to come, we'll take you inside a state-of-the-art forage harvester from New Holland and explain how it can improve your operation's bottom line. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Deep in the heart of Texas, that's where the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show will be in 2020. It's the biggest convention just for cattle producers in San Antonio, a city with an amazing history that's packed with great food and fun. You can't miss it. So make plans now for the 2020 Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show in San Antonio, February 5th to the 7th. Find out more at ncba.org.
It started with a man, a plot of land, and a few head of cattle. That man, your great-grandfather. You've got his name and his legacy, too. It's what you fight to live up to and work to leave behind. With innovation, integrity, and passion that runs as deep as yours, we'll be there. For your operation, for your future, for you. This is why Merck Animal Health works.
Higher quality feed can make a real difference in an operation's bottom line. Brian Baxter shows us how some custom forage operators in California are using new equipment from New Holland to produce a better product for their customers.
A silage pile is a common sight at beef feedlots and dairy farms across the country. That's because whether they're beef or dairy cattle, they need high-quality feed. In the dairy country of Central California, the corn grows 14 feet high, and chopping corn silage is a fast-paced, demanding job.
We've got hot days and very, very fertile soil that we can grow, really tall hybrids. And so when it comes to chopping, you've got to have the kind of power it's needed to be able to run that feed through a machine and process it. And, so it's real important to have a forage harvester that can do that.
It's all about feed nutrition for the animals, milk production. They got to get the most they can out of this corn crop. They take 3 months to grow it, certain varieties, 4 months sometimes, and there's a lot of money into it, and they got to get the best feed quality out of it. That's to survive in the business. That's just what it is.
Here in California, we're blessed with high yields, big corn. Behind me is New Holland's flagship machine, the FR920, with a 10-row corn head. This machine is capable of 400 tons per hour in the right conditions. Phenomenal performance.
When we see 12 rows of corn feeding through a machine, it's impressive, right, that we can do that. And we're filling trucks within 2 minutes with, again, 10, 15 ton of feed, and even more so if the trucks are bigger. So it's quite amazing to watch the technology and what we've been able to do with engines and horsepower, along with wear components and crop flow design. It's been a good thing.
High capacity in the field is valuable, allowing forage harvesters to get more tons out of the field and into the silage pile. But even more critical is the quality of the feed, and that begins with the most complete processing of the corn as it goes through the harvester.
We want length of cut to be a certain length because of our butterfats and the fiber in the diet. We want it to be digestible, and we want those kernels broken up really well so the cow can digest it. If you don't have a good processor, you've got kernels going out the backside of a cow that never gets actually utilized and wasted.
Processing in just the last 5 years has become very, very important, and it's been driven by the starch intake of the cow. So in layman's terms, we have an X amount of time from when the cow eats the feed until it exits the cow to absorb all the protein, all the starches that we can. So research has found that if we take one kernel of corn and we break it in half, you get about half of that starch retention. If we break it in a quarter, again, a quarter of that. So now the processors become very, very important because we actually want to reduce that kernel into little bitty pieces. So the more pieces you put through the cow's stomach, the more possibility for the starch absorption, the protein. So we're getting more bang out of the feed before it exits the cow.
The demands are very high as far as kernel processing and feed quality and everything else, and the right moisture. That's the biggest demand, and that's what they expect. And we are here to provide it the best way we can, and New Holland helps us do that.
The processor is a big thing for us. It's probably the key thing for corn, and they've done some changes to their processors by putting another extra belt on there so we don't have no slippage. And that's probably the most important part of a forage harvester is length of cut and the processing, and we like what we see with the 920 and what it's doing.
Another critical factor is chopping the corn at the right moisture. With the New Holland 920 Forage Cruiser, near-infrared technology is now available, letting the operator track crop moisture as they move through the field.
So NIR stands for near infrared reflectance. It's the light wave spectrum just below visible light that we see today. So what we're doing is we're actually seeing the sensor on the machine right now, which is in the crop flow with a round light source, and we're reflecting a light source down to the crop, and it reflects back, and we're able to then utilize that technology to measure what that actual moisture is as it goes through the machine real time.
So putting the moisture up correctly is key to good silage, and we all know that. So, and again, with that integration of technology, it gives us live time as the chopper's running what our moisture is, so we can catch a part of the field if it's too dry or it's too wet instantly. So we're not putting loads into the pile that are too wet that can basically not contaminate the pile, but it obstructs, putting up a good pile. So that's why the technology now, we want it live, real time on the chopper as we're going through the field.
One key benefit of the near-infrared system that we see on the machine today is we're actually able to measure ash. It's the only system and machine on the industry that's able to do that in real time. And that's a key driver, right? When you're talking about quality forage and feed delivered to the cows, maintaining your ash levels is something that nutritionists are always trying to minimize, right? So if we can understand what that looks like in the field as we're chopping real time, maybe we can make some adjustments, whether we raise the cutter head or we change from a rake to a basket rake or something in the windrow formations. Anything we can do to help reduce the ash here will benefit us in the barns, in the feed rations as those nutritionists are doing that. And we're able to see that real time in the cab. So it's pretty cool, it's pretty exciting to see that we're able to see that now and quantify what that looks like in the cab.
By having the moisture lab in the cab, it's easy for the driver to run the machine and be able to glance over and see where the moisture's at all times. So it's just a real nice feature. And this machine has a lot going on, so the easier you can make it to operate, the better you're going to be out in the field as far as keeping the feed in the truck. And so the way they've laid that cab out with the joystick and all the operations on the joystick and having the moisture lab right to your side makes running this cab and visibility a lot better when you're out in the field.
In addition to the technology, the experts say it's vital to keep these high-capacity machines well cared for to ensure they can be chopping the crop all day, every day.
Maintenance is number one on forage harvesters because of the environment they're in, making sure your knives are sharp. Every morning, basically, there's a sharpening system on the forage harvester, so make sure your knives are sharp, make sure your shear bar's set right, your gap in your kernel processor. Again, just making sure everything is tuned up and ready to go each and every day, and even during the day.
When you're out here chopping and you've got 8 trucks out here under one machine and the chopper goes down, you've got 8 people standing still while that chopper is being repaired. And Garton's been really good about either if it's something we can't fix ASP out in the field, we're getting a chopper from their store over here and using it as a backup until we figure out our problem on the other one. So without a doubt, that's meant customer care has been great.
From the Central Valley of California, I'm Brian Baxter reporting for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
For more information on how tools and equipment from New Holland can help improve your operations bottom line, visit the website newholland.com. Still ahead, we'll introduce you to a Minnesota family that has made stewardship and conservation a top priority in their operation. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
When the field is your office, you never get tired of going to work. Cut, rake, bale, repeat. New Holland offers the power and versatility to get through the day. From small squares to large squares and everything in between, New Holland has you covered. Visit your local dealer today to find out more.
When you're in the cattle business, no matter how much it's a business, it still starts with cattle. It's this basic notion that sits at the core of how we approach things at Beringer Ingelheim. We understand when you put the cattle first, it just naturally leads to doing the right things. If you want to do well in this business, you start by doing right. Take care of the cattle, and they'll take care of you.
The 2020 Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show will be deep in the heart of Texas, San Antonio. It's the cattle industry's biggest convention with education, networking, and fun. Plus, you can check out the huge NCBA Trade Show, outstanding entertainment, and much more. So make your plans and be there for the 2020 Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show, February 5th through the 7th. Details at ncba.org.
producers can face all kinds of challenges when it comes to protecting the environment, but they all have a common goal: leaving the land better than they found it. Today, we're taking a look at the 2019 regional winners of the Environmental Stewardship Award. Let's visit the Region 3 award recipients from Minnesota.
Didrikson Farms is a fourth-generation cow-calf operation located in northern Minnesota, just a short distance from the Canadian border. Brothers Thor and Dana recently took over day-to-day management of the 4,500-acre farm from their dad.
So right now it's my brother and I, and my dad is still involved. We actually just bought most of the land from him last year and finishing up this year, and then so we're kind of right in the middle of that transition, but he's still around every day and helping out.
It was always a wish of my dad to pass it on and to hand over management reins, and that started when I first came home. He's always been very willing and interested to pass on that responsibility and decision making.
From the start, Thor and Dana made healthy soil and grass top priority. The brothers consolidated their cows to create fewer, larger herds. Next, they implemented a strip grazing plan, where they use portable electric fencing to divide their large pastures into smaller, more efficient areas.
Strip grazing is just we fence them into a strip for a set amount of time. And most of our pastures, especially now when we're calving, are daily moves. So we give them another strip of grass every day. And that's fresh grass. It hasn't had any livestock on it. It's adaptive, and you're basing your decisions off what you're seeing, what you're observing with the cattle, and what you're observing with the grass.
With strip grazing, we're increasing our stock density per acre, but the biggest benefit is we're giving a higher percentage of the ranch more rest at one time. We'll graze through this pasture once and then leave for the rest of the growing season.
The added rest has benefited their grass, and it's improved their overall soil health with an increase in organic matter and a decrease in weeds and water runoff.
If you focus on your soil health and regenerating it, making it better, not necessarily sustaining it, but making it better, the compounding production levels is astonishing, and it allows us to stock more animals on same acres. The rest is really the key to the whole thing, and allowing that grass to fully recover before you come back. What's above ground is what's going down into the ground. And it doesn't take long, and in the soil profile, you'll start to see topsoil going deeper. It starts to change. If you focus on the soil and the grass, the cattle and the profitability of it will come.
We're trying to improve the soil health, and by focusing on the soil, everything else really takes care of itself, because when you have that naturally productive soil, it produces great forage for you and keeps your cattle in great condition and therefore in great health.
Dana and Thor have worked with the Natural Resources Conservation Service to install permanent water sources in some pastures. In other areas, they use portable water tanks that can be moved along with the cattle. The improvements they've made have worked so well that the Didriksons are transitioning away from grain farming to only raising grass and cattle, something rare in this part of the country.
Livestock have always been our passion. Managing the grass and especially in recent years, seeing what we can really do to manage the grass and the soil with livestock has absolutely been our passion, and it's where we get the most enjoyment out of it, and it's offering the most return as well because of what we can do with our pastures.
I think one thing that sets the Didrikson Farms apart from a lot of other operations is their adaptability with managing both the pasture as well as the livestock, and that gives them the ultimate flexibility to manage the pasture to reach its fullest potential productivity-wise.
Recently, the Didrikson family began selling beef raised on their farm at several local businesses. This gives them a great opportunity to share their story with consumers.
We have grain-fed and grass-fed as well, just to hit both markets. But it's really just having the story that goes with it of locally raised meats, that they know where it's coming from and how it's treated, and they know they have the opportunity to come anytime they want and see the operation.
People love to buy it from a rancher, buy it from a farmer, because they have that connection with where their food comes from.
Thor and Dana have proven that high-quality beef production and conservation go hand in hand, and their sustainable practices make the land healthier and more efficient for generations yet to come.
I feel like we are renting the ground from my kids, my brother's kids, and their kids. We want to make it so it's better for them, or it's at least of equal or better quality soil and environment for them to take over. We want to make sure it's a sustainable, profitable business that can support families so that people can enjoy it.
To have a healthy environment, you need to have livestock and you need to manage them correctly. And I know what we're doing is taking care of the land for the next generation, and we're going to hand it over better than what we got it, and that's the goal.
If you'd like to find out more about the Environmental Stewardship Award winners, see photos and videos, or even learn how to nominate someone for the award next year, visit the website environmentalstewardship.org. Still ahead, it's time for a visit with our good friend, Baxter Black. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
At Case IH, we believe it's our job to provide you with solutions. That's why our Farmall and Maxim tractors, as well as our tools and attachments, are designed with you in mind. From mowing to baling to loading and more, we're here to help turn your to-dos into to-dones. At Case IH, we'll keep your days running smoothly with equipment that's durable, versatile, and highly efficient. No wonder farmers are more loyal to Case IH than any other brand. Visit your local dealer or go to caseih.com/livestock for more.
At Leachman Cattle, we're committed to building more profitable cattle. As a third-generation seed stock producer, our family has been in this business for over 80 years. Today, we have the best technology ever to build more profitable cattle. Our dollar profit index is a leader in the industry to help you balance all the traits that drive your bottom line. Give us a call or go to www.leachman to learn more.
We know you're up before the dawn because the cattle rise before the sun. And you spend long hours in the saddle because the herd isn't always over the next rise. And you care for the land because you know it takes care of your family. And we know you do great work. And it's time to tell that story to the marketplace. IMI Global is here to help you do just that.
There was a movie one time where the main actor practiced this habit of saying out loud to himself, "I'm putting my watch on the sink," or "I'm putting my watch on the dresser." And it was a great mental mechanical memory device, and it's worked for me, but I don't think I would have ever thought about myself saying, "I'm dropping my glasses in the dog's water bucket." Well, mule deer season opened. My son and I drove to Davidson Canyon. We stopped, unloaded the horses, and rode out. Well, within an hour, we'd slid up on 6 does and a buck, and the chase ensued. Now, we had purposely lowered the volume on our walkie-talkies so they would only vibrate and not spook the wildlife. Well, of course, my son lost the walkie-talkie before he lost the buck. Well, tracking back was fruitless. Since we couldn't call it, we'd turned off the ringer. At lunch, we took a break. "Where's your other saddle blanket?" I asked. We both agreed that he'd started with 2. Well, the country was so rough, there was no point in going back to try and find it. We finished the day's hunt, unlucky, loaded up, and came home. It was then I discovered that my keys were missing, and I couldn't find my glasses. The next day, we changed country and hunted afoot. Again, no luck. We saw deer, but no bucks. Back home, early afternoon, I realized that I couldn't find my wallet or my hunting license. Well, the last day of the season, we took a trip back to Davidson Canyon with my GPS. I'd had the foresight to enter the location where we had parked. Well, lo and behold, I walked to within 10 feet from my keys, And they were so grateful to be rescued, they actually leaped into my arms. Later, I found my wallet and my other pair of boots. Hunting season was over, so the license didn't matter. I bought another walkie-talkie because, as you might guess, one isn't much good by itself. And when I cleaned out the dog's bucket, well, you know that story. But somewhere in the Arizona desert is a pack rat's nest lined with red and black threads and a strip of fluorescent orange ribbon poking out. And as to how that might have happened, I'd rather not discuss. This is Baxter Black from out there.
Thanks, Baxter. I think we can all relate to that one. Now, the 2020 Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show is just around the corner. It runs from February 5th through the 7th. Attendees will get to enjoy some great after-hours entertainment. Thursday night, you can kick up your heels at the Sunset Music Festival. Then on Friday night, don't miss the NCBA Invitational Bull Riding and After Party. Both events are included with your convention registration. You can get all the details at the website ncba.org. And we're back with more right after this. Stay with us.
Now a BQA tip from the Beef Quality Assurance Program.
My tip today is about biosecurity. It's about bringing cattle onto the place, just bringing in new additions to the herd. You know, if at all possible, what we want to do is we want to get a health program from those cattle. Cattle that are coming in from out of state have the benefit of having a health certificate. So we've had eyes on those cattle. They've looked at those cattle and seen that these cattle indeed are healthy, and that's why they're coming in. Even though those cattle are healthy, we do want to keep them separate from the rest of our herd. Get some background information if at all possible, find out what kind of herd health program they've been on. Keep cattle separate for about 30 days, you know, about 4 weeks to 30 days, and keep an eye on them and watch them. During that time, it's a really good time to take samples if you need to take samples to see if they could be incubating disease. Get them on your herd health program. If you need to do any procedures like vaccinations or deworming, even do some samples to see if they have parasites, that kind of thing. So that's a really good time to go ahead and get them integrated into your herd health program before you actually get contact with your herd.
Find out more about beef quality assurance at bqa.org.
Out here, you know what needs to be done, and you know what it means to those you're doing it for. But every sunrise brings something new, with the weather, the soil, the markets, your machinery. You can't always predict what it will be. So it's good to know that Ram trucks are more than capable of helping you get it done right.
Welcome back. The National Cattlemen's Beef Association works every day to advance the economic, political, and social interest of the U.S. cattle business, and to be an advocate for the cattle industry's policy positions and economic interests. We had a chance to ask one longtime NCBA member why he values the organization.
What goes on a national level is vitally important to what happens to every single one of us. That we have to have a voice in Washington. It's used all the time. You have a voice in Washington. No, you have to have a voice in Washington. You have to have somebody like NCBA up there. That me going to Washington, and I've been to Washington a lot. You have to have a group. You have to have the funding. So I would encourage everybody to join NCBA. I don't care if you don't go to another meeting. I know what your dues are. I know what the Political Action Committee does. I know what our group in Washington, D.C. does for us. I know what they do for me. Join NCBA. Pay your dues. Trust me, it is worth every dime you pay for the representation. That's why I belong to NCBA.
It's because of membership support that NCBA can be successful in its own efforts to keep the beef industry viable for future generations. So today, we want to share the story of one member from Oklahoma and his family. Let's take a look.
Joel Heinsroth established Heinsroth Cattle Company in 2004 after returning from his second deployment in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. He began with 6 Gelbvieh heifers and now runs 75 commercial cow-calf pairs in southwest Oklahoma. He's a 20-year Army veteran and a 4th-generation BQA certified cattle producer. Joel has 2 children, Emma Carroll and Rhett Irvin. He says he's proud to be a 15-year NCBA member and supports the organization because it has the tools and resources to help keep ranching viable for his kids and for generations to come. That's an NCBA membership moment.
Joel and his family will be featured in the November issue of the National Cattlemen. It's the official publication of NCBA and provides timely news and articles about the issues and events affecting the beef industry. A subscription is included free of charge, or you can read a digital version online. But first, you got to become an NCBA member. It's easy to do. Just call 1-866-233-3872 or visit the website ncba.org. Now don't forget, registration is now open for the 2020 Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show in San Antonio. The convention is set for February 5th through the 7th. You can register and get your housing all set at the website ncba.org. It doesn't matter if you're a first-timer or a long-time convention attendee, we want to see you in San Antonio. Well, that wraps up this edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. We sure appreciate you spending some time with us. We'll see you again next week, right here on RFD TV.